Good morning, Anchor. My name's BonnieJean, and something I'd like you to know about me right off the bat is that I'm not very good with cars. I can drive, but the jury's still out on how well. But what I mean by that is that if your car does anything unexpected, lose my number. I am, despite my sweet father's attempts at helping me to learn how to change a tire, if my tire goes out, I will in fact not attempt to get down on the ground on the side of the road to fix it myself. And if my car starts to make a noise, I'm not so sure that I've got any ideas of places to start. Cars are not my thing. But my father has owned 2 cars that we've affectionately called Screwdriver. And some of you are thinking, I know a guy that drives a car that we've had to call Screwdriver before. Maybe you are that guy. We call this car Screwdriver, both cars. Now it's happened twice to us. And so if you've never had this problem, bless you. But these cars only drove with a screwdriver somehow strategically jammed into that center console. Everyone kind of been like, oh, I do know a guy. Yeah, I know one too. And he drove that car for years, and this screwdriver made it so that he could drive forward and not backwards. Now, in your head, you're like, oh, weird. No, think about it. Think about parallel parking. Think about Costco. And think about his brain thinking about this for years while driving. I can barely multitask and not hit that like on the side of the road often, and I'm not thinking about how I'm gonna have to never be able to reverse. He only got stuck once. I was asking him about this, getting my facts straight as it was really hitting me. He only got stuck once in a situation in a parking lot at a grocery store with some cops, and he had to kind of quickly pull in. And he did get some random stranger lady to get in his car so he could push it back out. And that still wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. So maybe you have had to settle out of necessity or creativity or sheer stubbornness in fully repairing a car before. I know Brian's shared before that when his car starts to make loud noises, he just drives with the music up a little bit louder for a while. And our friend Mason was talking about how his AC is out in his CRV. And he asked his friend that was a mechanic, like, hey, I don't have a lot of money. Like, what are we gonna do to fix this thing? And he was like, oh, have you ever heard of the 40 down method? And he was like, no, tell me more, like getting super excited. And he's like, if you drive in 40 and put the windows down, you don't even need AC. So maybe you're someone, again, out of necessity or out of need or just creativity or something else, you have settled in life for a lack of a full, complete fixing of something that is clearly broken. This week, we're back in John. We're in our 3rd season of it. I love the book of John. We're talking about the 3rd of 7 signs that John gives us to tell us about who Jesus is. At the end of the book of John, John reminds us why he wrote his gospel. It says in John 20:31, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. Now, I love the book of John. I've shared this a bit here before. Early on in my faith in college, I was in my first Bible study, and the woman opened with loving that Jesus refers to himself, John refers to himself as the one Jesus loved. And when I first heard that, it didn't exactly click. Because if have ever been around someone that's super sure that they're loved, it's kind of like someone being like, hey, this is my husband, he really loves me. You'd be like, interesting, introduction here. But the more that we studied John and what it meant for him to deeply, deeply know that he was loved by the God of the universe, it changed everything about his life. And when that clicked for me, I wanted that for myself. To know that you're deeply, deeply personally loved by God changes everything about your life. So I took that knowing and did what the Bible says, which is to go out and tell others. And I went to, the ends of the earth, which is also known as my alma mater, high school, and tried to show up in people's lives and tell them about a God that loved them and that they could live out of that love and it would change everything. And it kind of worked. It was pretty cool. Because of that deep belief that I have that I'm loved by God, other people were able to experience as we walked together through the book of John and considered what it would be like to deeply know that God loves us. I've been reading John for 15 years now with new believers. I've watched Jesus find, heal, and send out countless people through what they've learned in studying this book. I've watched him heal a teenage girl raised by addicts, and not only heal her, but her whole family. Her mom has been sober for 8 years now and is invited into her life and spends time each week with her 2 sweet grandbabies. If you've been in a home where addiction was there, you know the miracle that it is that she leaves her 2 biggest treasures on earth in the hands of those people, her loving mom. I've watched Jesus invite countless people into physical and emotional healing from depression and eating disorders, debilitating anxiety, and partnering with wise and kind humans through therapy and rehab, mentors and doctors. And I've been blessed to be healed myself and to still wait on many healings I know he's still working out on my behalf. Through the book of John, we'll learn today more about the character of Jesus, the Son of God. And you'll see with me how Jesus is the one who finds us and who heals us and commissions us. We're going to start in verse 1 of John 5. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. So it was believed in this time that this pool, that people that had needs would hang out at, and they would look, and first thing in the morning, if the water stirred, if you could get down there and into the pool fast enough before it stopped stirring, that you would experience a miraculous healing. So people with needs, which would be this whole room, would camp out and wait, hoping that God would do what only God can do, but in this pool. They felt like this was the thing that they needed to do, to wait on. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Which leads me to our first point today. He finds us. Whether you're aware of it or not, Jesus always makes the first move. We love because he first loved us. He was with God in the beginning. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. He found his first disciples, and after his death, he sought out Mary and Peter and countless others. He comes to us. Back in March, I was able to be up here and teach also out of the book of John. I shared that I met Jesus on a mission trip that I signed up for to Boston, Massachusetts. It was advertised as an opportunity to work with inner city youth. Now, at this point, I had some really great friends that were believers, and I really enjoyed being their friend. I wasn't really interested in their faith part, but I would accompany them to different fun activities and sometimes end up at a college youth service. And so when they were advertising mission trip things, and I was in ed school. I was in school in the thick of No Child Left Behind, so there was a lot of limited teaching jobs. And so when I heard inner city youth, service project, I thought, resume builder, clearly. And so I signed up and I went, and joke's on me, I didn't get to spend as much time with youth as I thought. So my resume was in fact not built, but I met Jesus. God became real to me and showed up, and he found me on that mission trip with my false motives. He met me there. Maybe you have a part of your story where you had some false motives and you showed up and it wasn't in fact what you thought it was going to be, but it was so much better. Do you want to get well? In that verse 6, it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Jesus was a perfect human. So as me, an imperfect human, as I read a lot of the Bible, and especially some quotes from Jesus, I can put in my own implied tone, which usually has some sarcasm in it. So when I think of seeing someone with a very visible need and asking them, "Do you want to get well?" it can sound like, how do you say that without having a twinge of something? It's kind of like when you were in 7th grade and you came down for school and your big sister said to you, "Are you going to wear that to school today?" They were implying beside the question that you were in fact not going to be getting in their car this morning dressed like that. Jesus doesn't speak to us beside what he's addressing. He speaks beyond it. And here in this case, Jesus is asking this man beyond the one reality of the thing he's waited 38 years to heal. He's asking if he wants to get well beyond that, if he's ready for his whole life to change. Scholars point out here that begging was a very honorable and normalized thing in society for people that were unable to work. You could provide a living for yourself and also a wife and kids through this. There wasn't nonprofits and other ways that people could partner and help others. And so this was a way for people in the community to be generous and to see needs and immediately need them. And so when Jesus heals this man, he will no longer have the disability that has given him permission to beg. I don't know about you in this job climate, but explaining a 38-year unemployment gap would be really hard. Most people in this society started training for the job that they were at, and they were an expert by age 10. You're training under a parent or somebody who has brought you alongside. So to be 38 years in without the skill set shows us that oftentimes the thing that we're asking God to do in our life, when he gives us what we're asking for, it unlocks a whole domino effect of needs that we were hoping we weren't going to have anymore. And it's the same for all of us. Jesus offers a full healing to every aspect of our life: physical, emotional, relational, spiritual, our past, our present. He is always interested and invested in our whole selves. And although this man needed a physical healing for paralysis, many of us are experiencing other forms of paralysis today. Emotional, spiritual, relational. Oftentimes, the thing we want immediate help with stems from something deeper that we aren't yet aware of, or we are aware of it, but we're trying to avoid the hard work it would take to kill the weed at the root, so to say. Jesus is always talking about the whole root. We pick up in verse 7. "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once, the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. He heals us. When I first read this man's response, I heard helplessness. And I mean, he's been waiting 38 years, so who could blame him? I bet he's given up multiple times, but he was considering giving up that day. If you've ever waited on something significant in your life for 38 years, I can't imagine the exhaustion. I sense a lack of urgency with him, kind of like I'll just try tomorrow, what's one more day? He learned or was conditioned with helplessness, and who could blame him? But as I looked at it more, I saw myself. If I could just get a little help, I could do the rest myself. If someone would just help me into the pool before the water stops moving, I won't need help anymore. We want to get a little boost up so that we can go back to self-sufficiency as quickly as possible. But God invites us into a life of total dependence. For a lot of us, that seems like bad news. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for verbal affirmation, and I enjoy being seen as impressive. I'm highly collaborative, and I don't mind sharing the credit, but to take none can feel really unnatural for me. Yet so often, the most impressive things in my life, if I'm honest, I can take zero credit for. I love how Matthew 5:3 says it in the Message. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. God does the great works in my life when I start with the prayer, all right, I've got nothing. What are you up to, God? He heals us, and he doesn't need any help. Jesus instantly heals him without the man's participation. He left no time for shared credit and no opportunity to think he did anything himself to get well. It says the man at once got up, picked up his mat, and walked. Jesus said it, and it was done. Jesus does the healing. All we bring is our willingness. And I know life is a continual opportunity for growth and healing, but there can be seasons where you're working really hard on healing, and then seasons maybe more where you have some spaciousness and rest. And I've been coming off of a big healing season and got the invitation to participate in Soul Care. And Soul Care is a newer curriculum to our community that our staff is going through this summer, and we are really blessed to walk through this opportunity to look at our lives and the invitation that God has for us for continual and never-ending deeper healing. In Soul Care, we dive into issues of the deeper life, holding to the belief that God has always got more healing for us. We look at things like identity and repentance and forgiveness in new light and invite God's insight and healing. I've done a lot of counseling over the last 6 years. I love growth and development. But sometimes when I start feeling God pulling at the deepest roots of things, I'm exhausted before I start. I've gone through the process before, and it takes a lot of energy and time, and I look at my life and think, I don't have time for this, and I cannot slow down. It's in those moments where I'm sensing a new overhaul, a deeper insight and journey unlocking, that I get to make a choice, lean in or settle for my current reality. Soul Care has helped me make the space to lean in. God is faithful, and I'm so grateful he never leaves me where I'm at. Just like he didn't leave the paralyzed man waiting by the pool, he came to him in his stuckness and offered him a full healing and full life. He's doing that for me in this season, meeting me in my willingness, and he can do that for you too. I love how Philippians 1:6 reminds me, being confident in this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. He's not done until he's done. A complete and continuous healing. Soul Care is open to you. We have cohorts starting every 12 weeks. We'd love to tell you more about that. It's been a really cool opportunity to learn and to experience healing in this season for myself, and I invite you to be curious about that. In verse 9, we pick back up. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath, and the law forbids you to carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.' So they asked him, 'Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?' The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, 'See, you are well again. Stop sinning or something worse might happen to you.' The man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well." We're going to come back to this interaction between the healed man and the religious leaders, but you'll see here that Jesus comes back around and commissions the man. He commissions us. This is not a condemnation, but a commissioning. Jesus is again perfect, so he's not there waving a finger and scolding the man for the way that he was living his life. Instead, he invites him as a healed person. He names that, he says, "You are now healed. Don't go back to your old ways, like believing that a pool can heal you. I know that I see you and know you still need me, and I'm already on it." It's that repetitive cycle. You are well, ask for what you need next, and go. This life we're invited into with Jesus requires complete dependence. I'm reminded of Exodus 13:21-22. It says, by day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. As Israel depended on God's daily guidance, so do we depend on his daily guidance to walk into the fullness of life. Remember at the top today where we talked about John 20:31. The Gospel of John was written, but that these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. Another favorite verse of mine is John 10:10. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Jesus heals us and guides us to walk into fullness of life. One of my favorite reminders of this truth of God being already on it is this quote from F.B. Meyer. This is the blessed life, not anxious to see far in front, nor eager to choose the path, but quietly following behind the shepherd, one step at a time. The shepherd was always out in front of the sheep. He was down in front. Any attack upon them had to take him into account. Now God is down in front. He is in the tomorrows. It is tomorrow that fills men with dread. God is there already. All the tomorrows of our life have to pass him before they can get to us. Now God is down in front. He's already on it. He knows about the job that he has for you, about the marriage that you need help with, about the kid that you're praying for, that you already have and the one you're waiting on. He knows about that secret that you're not sure if anyone would stay near you if they knew. He knows about the family member that needs healing from addiction, from a sickness or illness. He knows about that part of your body that you're trying to ignore because you're not sure if it's going to unravel. He's already on it. We truly can live our lives waiting on him. So the man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. And here in verse 15, he went, commissioned, and told others what Jesus had done, and were invited to the same. He finds, he heals, and he commissions us out. So jumping back to that earlier interaction between the healed man and the Jewish leaders, they see the healed man, and instead of being in awe of the miracle, I'm sure that these leaders have seen this man for 38 years waiting. To see him walking would be shocking. But how often do we find ourselves missing the miracle and instead focusing on the religiosity and the rules? Actually, you did it all wrong. Jesus is totally different, offering newness of life. This man has experienced a transformation that has challenged and empowered him. And Jesus is the one freeing and healing, but the Pharisees are going back to, it's all on you. Why did you do this today? Jesus wants to continue to free and heal, but we keep getting stuck as believers thinking we need to help or keep track of some religious to-do list. This happens a lot to me, and maybe you too. When I meet someone early on in their faith journey, and as someone who's now been around a little bit longer, that I know what healing should really look like. Like the order in which God heals people is best done in some way of my ideas, like God really needs my help figuring that out. I can prioritize certain things above others, and maybe you do too. Maybe how we talk or vote, or the movies we enjoy, or the friends we keep. And I think this bit is included here in John to highlight just that. We miss the actual miracle when we're too worried about what everyone is doing instead of wondering what God is up to. In contrast, Jesus is always interested in the whole picture, the greater healing, walking with us along our personalized journey to a deeper life, knowing exactly what we each need to take our next steps with him. We learn who he is as we grow to trust him. John's gospel is such a gift because we get to learn more of who he is over and over. John's gospel was written so that we would know who Jesus is, the Son of God, and so that we can know his character. Today we studied how Jesus always makes the first move towards us. We wander off path over and over, and again, we lose ourselves to our own agendas, our fears, our priorities. We're distracted and we go our own way. He always knows where to find us and walks with us back home. Where would Jesus find you today? Unfamiliar or 38 years of being around? He's right there with you. And Jesus heals us immediately. He's at work in your life when you encounter him and surrender to him. Whether we see it or not, in that immediately we always find it to be true. Anything and everything, he has the power with no need or help from us to heal. Now God is down in front. He's already on it. We truly can live our lives waiting on him. And Jesus commissions us. He sends us out with a new story to tell. God is at work daily in our lives, finding healing and sending us out to share who he is with others. He uses our real lives to bring hope and curiosity and more, but we must be willing to go. This is our Jesus, finding you, healing you, and commissioning you. It's not a one-time thing, but an invitation to complete dependence on him. We need to see our whole life as a work of Jesus' healing, delivering, and saving us. He's not done with me, and he's not done with you. As we enter into a time of reflection and prayer and the receiving of communion, I'd invite you to ask God, because he's already found you, what invitation to deeper healing he has for you today. Maybe it's an area of your life that you've written off as hopeless or too far out for help. Maybe you aren't sure what's next, or you know exactly what it would be. Our prayer stations are open, and we'd be honored to pray for you and with you in this season. And maybe today is the day that you start your prayer acknowledging you're ready to pray an end of rope prayer. Ready for God to do what only God can do. Surrendering to the invitation of, all right, I've got nothing. God, what are you up to? It's the perfect place to start your walk with Jesus today. He's there and he's willing. Will you receive him, knowing who he is, into your whole life?